Welcome back, trainers. This is it. This is the big moment. This is the finals of the Liberty Garden Midseason Showdown. I am Mr. Joe Brown.
And I am Dr. Brendan Lewis, as apparently has been on stream for a couple rounds.
I saw it earlier, and I was like, wait, why am I not a doctor? And I'm like, well, I'm not a doctor, so that's obviously why. So it was fun. We didn't know this whole time. We haven't been looking at the lower third, seeing our
I'm not like
there.
I still feel like I'm 15 years old sometimes, so I'm not super used to being titled.
Yeah, well, so is Doogie Howser. Exactly.
What's
yeah.
that?
Are you Doogie Howser MD, or do you not even know what the hell that is?
I'm I'm calling him out because we're the same age and I know who Doogie Howser is. So that's a Brendan problem.
All right,
he's a 15-year-old doctor
just
too.
Culturally out of touch.
So this our finals matchup is Brendan Zhang and Jake Skirchak. Jake, we just saw him win his top 4 match against Vincent, and Brendan won against James Bake in top 8, and then very swiftly beat Paul Chua in top 4.
Yeah, it was a quick and a very good,
Decisive
big
2-0.
win over a good player too. So Brendan is clearly in it to win it here, and I think a couple people have been talking about it. Tommy mentioned it briefly before you guys signed off, and Steven just mentioned it a minute ago. But this might be the youngest Masters midseason final ever.
That's true. Yes, Steven was saying this is typically what we would see for the last couple of years in seniors finals, but now our players have aged up into the Masters division and are doing a great job at it. Again, remember, Jake Skirchak was 1 win away at U.S. Internationals last year from qualifying for the World Championship. Mm-hmm. So we know he is so hungry for this. He does great. He always does great at Liberty Garden events. He's won PCs and done well at mid-seasons. Always a perennial top cutter out of our players. So, but Brendan Zhang is a huge threat now in the Masters division that I feel like for years people were like, oh, Brendan's great, but let him take on the other juniors and seniors and all that stuff. But now Brendan's here, and we can see in this match that he is here to stay.
Absolutely here to stay, and he is not just like a former junior world champion anymore. He is a strong Masters player, and I think we can probably stop talking about that now. I feel like I've been on stream with him so many times, like even going back to past events, and he's just a good Masters player anymore. He's not just a young kid.
So let's get into our final match here. Jake Skirchak, the redemption story, versus Brendan Zhang, the child prodigy. Jake Skirchak leads Polytoad, Ludicolo, and Brendan Zhang has Tapu Koko and Salamence.
And Brendan has gotten a ton of experience against this same team over the course of the day. We just saw him on against James Beck in top 8, playing this exact same lead, I think, 2 of the 3 games that we saw them play. So Brendan knows exactly what the dynamics of this matchup are, and I'm sure Jake has been thinking about it as well as he came through the tournament, knowing that, he's running the same team as James Beck, and if he runs into Brendan Zhang, he's going to know what to do, right?
Polytoad switching out into Gothitelle. So Gothitelle, with its Shadow Tag ability, Brendan is not going to be able to switch out regularly. He would have to Volt Switch with Tapu Koko, which is not what he goes for. Tapu Koko protecting this turn as Salamence not Mega Evolving, just going for a Protect. So a double Protect from Brendan, and Ludicolo's Ice Beam goes into Salamence's Protect.
Yeah, and he does catch Salamence's Protect there, but that probably is actually most beneficial for Jake here, as he does have the opportunity to go for that Water Z move into the Tapu Koko slot completely for free because Gothitelle is on the field now. If that had happened without Gothitelle coming onto the field, the option could have been to try and get, and a double Protect.
Salamence, again, not Mega Evolving, but going for a Protect. It's only a 30% chance to get 2 Protects in a row, and he lands it. So Ice Beam goes in there, not going to do anything. But Brendan's Gigavolt Havoc is going to do a lot.
And we did see it knock out James's Ludicolo earlier, so this is like, a similarly trained Pokemon. Then we're going to see Ludicolo get knocked out. And Brendan reaching for answers on turn 2, going for that 30% chance, might have just pulled himself a win pretty early here.
Off of one turn.
And it's different.
Ludicolo is able to take that hit, so he's not getting the one-hit knockout. Psyshock into Tapu Koko there. There's the Electric Z, Tapu Koko, Thunderbolt. it's just so strong, and there's hardly any Pokemon in the format that can handle it as well as Ludicolo did here. And now Brendan Zhang only has a 10% chance to go for a triple protect if that's what he wants, which Salamence is Mega Evolving.
And it looks like he's just going to go for it. He's going to allow his Salamence to be taken. And now that he's gotten the Z move off, he can go for a Thunderbolt or a Volt Switch and knock out that Ludicolo. But we saw in the match earlier between Brendan and James that Ludicolo has to be off the field for Brendan to have any opportunity of playing to his Azumarill win condition.
Volt Switch into Ludicolo actually goes down, and Brendan is able to switch his Tapu Koko out, totally ignoring Gothitel's Shadow Tag ability. So unfortunately, Brendan had to take down his Salamence in order to get rid of Ludicolo, but Tapu Koko is able to switch out, wait a couple turns until electric terrain goes down, and he can reset it up later. As Amoonguss is that switching on the Volt Switch.
Right, and with the Volt Switch, it gives Brendan the opportunity to make sure that Psyshock is doing less damage, less overall damage. It does eat the Pyappa Berry for it, but he doesn't really want to be taking that with Tapu Koko or with Azumarill if he can avoid it. So getting it in there with the Pyappa Berry, getting to take kind of the brunt of the damage from that Psyshock is a pretty good option here. And now he's going to get the opportunity, if he wants to get the free switch into that Azumarill, as I assume Mawile is going to take the field here.
Right, that is the combination that we saw Brendan in top 8 use to perfection. Was Azumarill and Amoonguss, the double A core, with being able to Rage Powder so Azumarill can set up a Belly Drum. But with Mawile coming in, intimidating it, it does also threaten it with an Iron Head. But this actually, it's pretty safe if Brendan wants to Rage Powder and Belly Drum.
Right, and if he does Rage Powder and Belly Drum here, which I don't think he's been given a reason not to do, what is going to happen is he's going to trade his Amoonguss for that Belly Drum and then get the free switch back into Tapu Koko, which I think puts him in a pretty good position going into the end game. The only thing that could really have improved his position if he still had that Electric Z move available. But, we do know that Azumarill, we watched it all day tear through teams once it gets that Belly Drum. It can hit those huge knockoffs onto Gothitelle. It's a little bit quicker than it, I believe. It's trained to be faster than Gothitelle. And, of course, we saw against James that Aqua Jet outside of the rain at +6 knockout of Mawile.
Mega Mawile here. Gothitelle goes for a helping hand, so whatever attack Jake is going for, it's going to go into Amoonguss because of that Rage Powder. If it's the Iron Head, Jake was expecting a Rage Powder. Brendan, Azumarill, Belly Drum will max out its attack stat and eat its Citrus Berry, which will recover 25% of its HP, so it'll have a little bit more health remaining. But the Mawile Iron Head with a Helping Hand boost into Amoonguss is enough for a knockout. So Jake was really expecting that sequence on the turn. So he gets a knockout, but Azumarill is still maxed out here, so Brendan can win this.
Yeah, he can, definitely is available to win. I think something that Brendan does kind of want to think about here is trying to preserve his Tapu Koko until Politoed gets back onto the field, because that's going to be a better way of dealing with that than Azumarill is. When you get Politoed onto the field and you're trying to deal with it with Azumarill instead of the Tapu Koko, you do kind of have to mess around with the potential for Scald Burns. And that Scald Burn, in conjunction with the Pitch Berry that Politoads do like to do, can definitely, rain on the parade a little bit if you're trying to use, like I said, the Azumarill to pick off Politoed. So I think he's going to want to try and preserve this Tapu Koko a little bit, and Jake's actually going to bring out the Politoed here.
Politoed coming into that Mawile slot, will not reset the rain if it goes down, and Aqua Jet goes into Politoed.
Huge damage.
It is resisted, and it still brings him down to that low. A Thunderbolt on Gothitelle, not even bringing it into yellow, sets up Trick Room, which Azumarill really doesn't care too much since it has the priority Aqua Jet, but I do wonder, just as I said in top 8, if Azumarill went for the Gothitelle while the rain was up instead of the Mawile slot, because I assumed the Mawile was either going to protect or switch out into Politoed on that turn, and it might have been freer to Aqua Jet the Gothitelle.
Yeah, I think even with the potential that it was going to switch out into Politoed, Brendan was okay with taking the damage onto the Politoed, because all these Pokemon still have to be dealt with in some capacity, and getting damage onto the Politoed, if Mawile is going to leave the field, is totally fine. He knows that Gothitelle's not going to be able to Psyshock him, barring some sort of... I think even with a crit, Azumarill would probably take the attack. So he's content to hit that priority slot, even if it does mean a switch is coming in.
Gothitelle protecting. So Aquajet did a lot of damage to Politoed last time, and that will definitely get a knockout. Politoed goes down. Both of our players are down to 2 Pokemon here in Game 1. Thunderbolt into Gothitelle's protect. So it is Gothmaw, which has been very popular today and very popular in the early versions of VGC 2018 versus Azumarill Tapu Koko.
Yeah, and something I'm thinking about now is I'm trying to figure out exactly, why Jake decided to go for the Trick Room as opposed to taking a Psyshock onto the Azumarill, over the course of a couple turns. He would have had an option there to get another Psyshock and maybe given, a couple free shots here and there of Psyshocks. Might have been able to deal with the Azumarill, but I think maybe what he was going for was trying to get a Perish Song off with Politoed, and just the slot was called correctly by Brendan that, that was the game plan.
Mawile Play Rough goes into Azumarill's protect, a Psyshock on Tapu Koko. It cannot take another one next turn, but Dazzling Gleam brings Gothitelle under half of its HP, does negligible damage to the Mawile here. So the Psyshock would knock out Tapu Koko again since we're still under the Trick Room for this turn.
Right, and a small, like you said, a negligible amount of damage. Numbers-wise, sure, but that might have been just enough to kind of turn to make sure that Aquajet is going to be enough to take out Mawile, because I believe, I'm not 100% sure like we were talking about. I don't know the calcs for an Azumarill because it's not been a super popular Pokemon. But the way, especially earlier in our top 8 match, that James and Brendan both reacted to that Aquajet knocking out Mawile makes me think that that's a very close damage roll on the Mawile.
And Jake is clicking forfeit here. He understands that he does not have the offensive firepower with a Gothitelle to be able to take down that +6 Azumarill. So Brendan showing, just as he saw in his Swiss match on stream and his top 8 match versus James Bake, that Azumarill puts on so much pressure, and if teams are not prepared for it, it's almost unstoppable.
Right, and it seems like there have been quite a few teams that have been unprepared for it, and I think that was probably a big contributing factor in why we were a little surprised that Brendan 2-0'd Paul so quickly, but there aren't teams are not preparing, not building with Azumarill in mind because people have written it off so much early in the format.
Yeah, I think it's tough, as we were saying, with that matchup against James. When you have Rain, Gothitelle, Mawile, it's so hard to not bring that option because you have to bring 4 Pokemon. So even if he wants Incineroar for Azumarill, for Amoonguss, he's gonna have to deal with Azumarill. There's just so many things on Brendan's team. His team synergy works so well, and that just gives good credit to him with his team building and making sure his team worked well together, and it might be enough for him to win this midseason.
Quick lock in there from both players. I think we're probably going to see the same leads here, Joe.
Well, I guess we'll find out. There it is.
It's a different lead.
Azumarill.
Oh my gosh, switch ups from both
and
sides.
Amoonguss and Ludicolo Tapu Koko. So no Rain on the field right now. Brendan is really good with this matchup against Rain when he has Azumarill and Amoonguss on the field at the same time. But this time around, Tapu Koko is here. He can do a lot of damage with a super effective electric attack on Azumarill.
Yeah, and definitely interesting, from both players because we haven't seen this kind of lead from either player going back to any of the sets that we've seen with this Gothmaw team here. Tapu Koko out on the field, which probably means that Mawile was left behind for this match, unless, Jake decided maybe he wants to leave Gothitelle behind. But I think that was really important in allowing his team to be successful against Brendan's.
Brendan switching out that Azumarill.
This should just be a Sludge Bomb, I think.
Into Tapu Koko. But Jake's Tapu Koko goes for a Dazzling Gleam.
Energy Ball. Yeah.
In the Ice Beam from Ludicolo onto Amoonguss, super effective. Brings it not even down to 50% of its HP. Remember, Brendan is running the Energy Ball variant of Amoonguss, which is not that common. Doesn't even take Tapu Koko to 50%.
Right, and Tapu Koko getting onto the field comfortably. We might have to play the Tapu Koko speed tie game here a little bit. Both of them we do know have, I believe we know that both of them have the Z move, the Electrium Z, one of them being a Thunder and one of them just being a Thunderbolt. But if they are speed tying, they're both capable of knocking each other out here. But of course, Amoonguss can wick that away. There's some interesting dynamics going on here. I'm a little surprised that Amoonguss Energy Balled the Tapu Koko instead of Ludicolo, because had it Energy Balled the Ludicolo the turn before, there would have been the potential for a Z move from Brendan's side this turn.
Dazzling Gleam, Jake was able to get off his attack first, but it's not enough for a knockout. Brendan will get a Gigavolt Havoc off, most likely into that Ludicolo slot, boosted with Electric Terrain. We saw last game it did not do enough for the one-hit knockout, but this is huge if Brendan is able to take down Ludicolo. That's not what he goes for, actually. He goes for Tapu Koko. It is resisted, but it's boosted because of the Z move, and it will be enough to bring down Tapu Koko. Now, one of Jake's best counters to Azumarill in Tapu Koko is down, and this is actually great. Brendan is okay with losing Tapu Koko here because he gets to switch in Azumarill for free.
Well, he gets to switch into Azumarill for free, and I'm starting to think, I wonder if maybe he thinks that Politoed was left behind in favor of the Tapu Koko, which might give him the opportunity to just bring Salamence here and knock out Ludicolo. But it's still a little dicey. You know, we were talking about, okay, so there's the Politoed, how really the position that Brendan needs to get himself into is with Amoonguss and Azumarill on the field, but Ludicolo not on the field, and it's still there and pretty healthy.
It's definitely still able to get a lot of damage off and is now very fast since the rain is up. And Ice Beam might not be enough, as we saw for the first two matches here. It's not doing too much damage to the Amoonguss, so it might not be enough for a knockout. But Mawile is Jake's fourth Pokemon. No Gothitelle, no Shadow Tag in this match. Ludicolo, Giga Drain, super effective on the Azumarill, bringing it under 50% HP, which will activate Azumarill's Citrus Berry. So if he does go for a Belly Drum, he's not going to recover any of that HP, and he'll be down 50%. And he doesn't actually go for Belly Drum, a knockoff on Ludicolo, but which will knock off Ludicolo's Assault Vest. And that is why he endured that Gigavolt Havoc.
Okay. So here I am sitting just thinking that, you know, they're probably running that Jake and James were running a very similar team. A lot of these players, you know, do collaborate a lot on team building, and, you know, we talked about a little bit, of course, over the course of the day about like the regional meta here and how a lot of them run similar sets. But that Ludicolo actually with the Assault Vest, which explains a lot of things that went on in Game 1 and Game 2. Of course, why it lived to the Gigavolt Havoc, why we haven't seen it go for the Water Z move. But now that that's revealed, I assume that's information that Brendan might have known, and that was kind of why he was playing the matchup a little bit differently. But it looks like he's going to use Azumarill to try and deal with that Ludicolo itself, but without the Belly Drum.
Ludicolo might go for a Giga Drain again, hoping that Brendan was going to keep his Azumarill in that slot, but he doesn't. Salamence switches in to that slot. Jake Mega Evolving with Mawile. He's down to his last game. He has to win this to force a Game 3. And if Mawile went for a play rough into Salamence, that would really have been the play. Amoonguss protecting. So what did Mawile go for? We're going to see the Giga Drain first on Salamence, so it does not do hardly any damage there. Ludicolo's not going to get a lot of damage back, but an Iron Head into Amoonguss, not the play rough into Salamence, which I understand because that would have been a very difficult prediction to make.
Right, definitely a difficult prediction. I don't think Jake had any reason to even try and make that prediction because there wasn't really an indication on the way that Brendan had played the previous couple turns that he was going to try and get that Salamence in at all. So he's just trying to make hard reads here and try and catch Jake not going for any raids. And he got it again. He's able to get that Ice Beam going into the Salamence slot. Oh, and a freeze.
So Ice Beam has a 10% chance to freeze your Pokemon and a 100% chance to ruin your day. Azumarill is now frozen in place, and Brendan will have to bring his Salamence in here, which does not want to take an Ice Beam either. So I agree with you, Brendan, that it was Brendan Lewis. I'm talking to you now.
Thank you.
That it was a good switch in from Brendan to get his Azumarill because it was resisting the Ice Beam. You can't account for a 10% chance to freeze, so Brendan Zhang is going to have to find a way to unfreeze here if he wants to win Game 2.
Yeah, and it's looking a little bleak for him here. I think he's going to have to protect Salamence here and hope that Azumarill wakes up and gets an attack off onto Ludicolo, which would require a couple of things. I don't think we've seen whether Mawile or Azumarill would be the faster Pokemon right now. But what would have to happen is like either he has to make a big read here, and it looks like he might be trying to read into an Ice Beam not going into the Salamence slot. Let's find out what's going to happen here.
Does Salamence go for a protect? No, he doesn't. Azumarill went for an Aqua Jet, but he stays frozen there. Ice Beam on to Salamence. Jake did not over-predict and try to attack Azumarill. Knew he had to get rid of the Salamence because Azumarill can conceivably stay frozen for the rest of this game. Iron Head onto Azumarill. Not enough for a knockout there. So I don't know if Brendan knew that calculation before. He probably did. But knowing that Iron Head really isn't too strong from a Mega Mawile can help him in Game 3, as that's what we're going to see since Azumarill is still frozen.
All right, I think it was actually intimidated a couple times too, which was probably why it did so little damage. But Ludicolo here, we see why this is such the pivotal piece of the matchup. I believe it was on the field the entire game and was able to click attacks every single turn. And Brendan really needs to set himself up in a way, and we saw how important the leads were. He needs to set himself up in a way from turn 0 that he's managing Ludicolo effectively.
So we saw now that the Ludicolo is Assault Vest, not Hydro Vortex for Jake. So that's why I was able to survive the Gigavolt Havoc in Game 1. The Azumarill can go for a knockoff again like we saw in Game 2. But you actually mentioned something interesting before with the Salamence. When he brought Azumarill back in, it might have been a good turn to have that Salamence, who has super effective flying type moves onto Ludicolo. So does Brendan have to make that adjustment to get Salamence out in a way he's not going to get hit by an Ice Beam? Maybe Salamence on the field with Ludicolo without rain.
Well, right, and I don't think that there's not really a situation in which Jake has to or needs to allow that to be the case, right? He just has to put Politoed in back, and there's not really a scenario unless Brendan catches Ludicolo on the field turn 0, turn 1 when the Pokemon hit the field without rain out. So if he tries to go for the Ludicolo Politoed lead again, or the Ludicolo Coco lead, but he covered that even with the Z Coco. So I think that's like the direction of thinking is correct, but I don't think there's any reason that Jake ever has to allow the two Pokemon to be on the field. And Hitmontop is going to join the field here.
Brendan making an adjustment, bringing Hitmontop. We did not see him in top 8, and we haven't seen him in the first 2 games of the finals. So Brendan brought the same 4 Pokemon in every game so far in the last 2 sets. But Hitmontop has an Intimidate, has Fake Out pressure, so he can match Ludicolo's potential Fake Outs and can keep cycling in Intimidates and things like that. But Tapu Koko, for both of Brendan's Pokemon, it could potentially be another speed tie like we saw in Game 2. Fake Out from Ludicolo onto Tapu Koko. Hitmontop faking out Brendan's Tapu Koko. Critical hit, so Hitmontop's Fake Out was better, but kind of a null turn.
All right, a null turn, but actually that does make sure that Jake's Tapu Koko is in range to be knocked out by Brendan's with the Z move. So maybe the critical hit there a little bit more important than we thought it would be. But overall, like kind of a net 0 for both players. One thing I was trying to mention at some point in the last game is now that we know that Ludicolo is Assault Vest, Brendan can lead his Tapu Koko a little bit more confidently into the Ludicolo, because as we saw in top 8, it was scary for him to lead the Tapu Koko in knowing that it could be knocked out by the Water Z, but he's not fearing that at all.
Hitmontop, helping hand. Get your coins and prepare to flip them, because we have a speed tie with Gigavolt Havoc. Whose is it? I think that's Jake's trainer. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Jake, so he wins the speed tie here. Gigavolt Havoc. Who does it target? Probably into Brendan's Tapu Koko.
Yeah, definitely.
And let's see for Jake. It's into Hitmontop. Okay. He wants to get rid of Hitmontop because he doesn't want that Fake Out and Intimidate pressure, and it will get the one-hit knockout. So no more Fake Out, meaning that Ludicolo won't be stopped if Brendan brought the Salamence. And there's Brendan's
number 2.
There we go. 2 Gigavolt Havocs in 1 turn. But this one, I'm pretty certain will go into Jake's Tapu Koko.
Yeah, it could be either slot, actually. I know that, we saw Brendan struggle to deal with Ludicolo in Game 2 a little bit, and, getting big damage onto it here would be a good way to set himself up. And, like you mentioned, Joe, trying to... Oh, that's got to be a critical hit. Wow, that's a big damage roll
So
swing.
that wasn't a damage roll. So, it was not a critical hit. The last time that happened, it was just a low damage roll on there, which must be frustrating for Jake because he saw before that it endured a hit, and it's definitely different now. Mawile coming in, intimidating.
Was Electric Terrain up last time?
Yeah, they were both up. They were both up last time.
Oh my goodness!
So the Azumarill. Oh, it doesn't have a Moongus. Every time Azumarill has been able to... It was helping handed. Thank you.
Oh, it was helping hands. Okay, thank
With the
chat.
2 Z move animations, we totally forgot Hitmontop's helping hand since it was just obliterated from the field. So thank you. We appreciate that. The Azumarill does not have a Moongus next to it to set up safely its belly drum.
That's correct. It doesn't. Tapu Koko, though, threatening damage. I think a Thunderbolt from Brendan's side of the field plus an Aqua Jet might be enough to take Tapu Koko out here. Or I'm sorry, not Tapu Koko, the Mawile out here. But Azumarill does need the belly drum up to be able to deal effectively with Jake's Tapu Koko. And like you said, the Moongus would be instrumental to making that happen.
Mega Mawile coming out here in Game 3 for Jake. Azumarill protecting. What does his Tapu Koko go for? A Dazzling Gleam on to Jake's Tapu Koko, bringing it under 50% HP. Tapu Koko, hidden power into Brendan's. We have too many Kokos right now. Double target onto Brendan's, and that will go down. So Jake now has the advantage as Brendan is down to his final 2 Pokemon.
Yep, and depending on what it is a Moongus. Okay, so if it was Salamence, I think that's what Jake was going for there with the hidden power and the Iron Head to try and cover if Brendan was trying to switch in that Salamence. The Dazzling Gleam there, negligible damage onto Mawile, but does likely put Tapu Koko into range to be knocked out by that Aqua Jet. And we did see last game that Iron Head is not doing the hugest amount of damage to Azumarill. And of course, Mawile and Tapu Koko can have their attacks wicked away by that Rage Powder, which is what we're going to see here.
Tapu Koko's hidden power, Ice or Fire, but most are running Ice in this format early on. Goes into a Moongus, not too much damage. A Belly Drum from Azumarill. One last Belly Drum coming out from Brendan's field here at the midseason showdown. Will eat that Citrus Berry, go back up to 75% of its HP. An Iron Head
needs to take
into
this.
a Moongus.
Oh.
It knocks it out. So Moongus is not able to take Mega Mawile's attack. Now it's just a Moongus versus 3 of Jake's Pokemon. He can Aqua Jet. He is able to pretty much anything he Aqua Jets, he will knock out. But the question is, does he call a bad Protect? Does Jake say double Protect this turn to see who Brendan prioritizes?
Yeah, and like you said, Jake really has all the power in the situation here. With 3 Pokemon left, even though that Azumarill is at +6, it can't, without having any spread moves, be able to, 3v1 effectively without calling every single turn correctly. It can take knockouts on every single Pokemon on Jake's team pretty comfortably now that Ludicolo has been removed from play, but he's going to have to call it every single turn correctly.
Azumarill protects.
So he's trying to catch Jake going for a Protects there, yeah.
Right, so you can't get the double
attacking.
Protect. Thunder outside of Rain. It's only a 70% accurate move for next turn, and the Play Rough goes on onto the Azumarill as well. So Jake was actually aggressive on that turn. So now you wonder if he's going to switch it around, and Azumarill attacks as Jake double protects.
Right, and eventually Brendan's going to have to decide whether or not which odds he wants to play. Right, he's going to have to think about: does he want to take the 30% chance that Thunder's going to miss? Does he want to take the 10% chance that Play Rough is going to miss? Or does he want to try and take the Play Rough attack, which I don't think he'll be able to do at this level of HP.
Right, so that would mean the Aqua Jet is probably more likely going to go into the Mawile, so he can take care of that. There is no Electric Terrain, and Thunder can miss.
And he's going to go for the Koko.
Brendan actually Aqua Jet into Tapu Koko. It does knock it out, so it's now 2v1. Mawile doesn't go for Play Rough, goes for an Iron Head, knocks out Azumarill, and Jake Skirchak is your 2018 Liberty Garden midseason showdown champion. That was an impressive, really fun set to watch.
Yeah, phenomenally played, and there are just so many different dynamics, and I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over again here, but that Ludicolo against the Amoonguss Azumarill is really kind of like the key dynamic there. And then, of course, as soon as I start thinking, okay, Ludicolo's gone, like maybe this is it, we start seeing Z moves flying everywhere, and everybody's getting electric
Z,
and helping hands are getting lost in like the electricity that's flying everywhere.
At least Hitmontop got a moment to shine though. He was on the
Montel
field for
did get
a
its
little
chance.
bit.
It did, yeah, before it was very quickly Gigavolt Havocs. But yeah, like you said, that was a phenomenally entertaining set. Two really strong young players, and congratulations to both of them on their tournament runs here.
What Jake did well in Game 3 was the Azumarill was just a havoc in every match that it was in, and it was just too little too late. It got set up too late in that match. It was the Amoonguss was not able to get in early enough to Rage Powder away its damage, so it just took a little bit too long for Brendan. It was slow, and Jake was able to just keep it
Everyone
going.
say hi,
So
Jen.
congratulations to Jake. We're gonna be hi everybody. Say hi to Jen Sweater. We're gonna be right back with an interview with our champion. Oh,
Ready to go.
are we? I don't know. We'll see you in a second. Hold on. We'll be right back at Liberty Garden. Welcome back. We have our champion, Jake Skirchak. Show off the hardware you got here. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And so how does it feel? I know the 2017 season ended in such heartbreak for you. So to start off 2018 in such a great fashion by winning this midseason, how do you feel?
Well, we don't talk about 2017 for me, but this is actually my first MSS win. So that's
Hey, all right.
So it feels really good, and I feel like I've established my place here in New York.
Well, you were already established. You're a perennial top cutter at our events, but this might put you on the national map more because are you aware, not that you're not aware, but do you consider that being one of the first events, like how we had the MSS in Singapore and the LA MSS last week, that it might shape some people's opinions on the meta moving forward or possible Pokemon that they didn't think were going to be relevant at winning an event like this? Maybe people think what you're running is better than what they originally thought.
Wow, that was a wordy question.
Yeah, it was very long. It was very long. Do you think your win will impact people's opinions of Pokemon, of what is viable in this
of
format?
like what I used as an example?
Right.
Yeah, I think that like it'll put Gothitelle Mawile on the map if it already wasn't. It was popular today a little bit, I think. Mora, Justin, James all ran it today. So it's already on, I think, like on the table of things you need to be countering. So I think for like Dallas, the next coming regional, I think, I feel like the answers to Gothitelle Mawile could at least go up a little bit.
And as you said, many people were running that combination of Rain, Gothmaw, Tapu Koko, and Incineroar. So what is the synergy? What makes that core 6 Pokemon work so well in this format?
Well, I used this at, this Rain, Gothmaw combo at 2015 Nationals where I got top 4 in seniors. So I kind of already knew how to play it, but like I like the synergy in having like a Perish Song option along with your Gothitelle. And also just having Rain, having that weather control, and, for Intimidate with Mawile. So it gets kind of all these different aspects of stuff that's prevalent in most teams, or like in one category. It puts it all into one.
So what's your progress for Nashville? How many championship points do we have? How close are you to achieving your goal of reaching the 2018 World Championships?
I get 50 for this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at 266.
So what's your plans for the rest of, are you going to different regionals or more mid-seasons? What's your track in order to qualify for Worlds?
Right now it's just Dallas. I don't actually know what's coming up. Dallas, is Roanoke a thing?
Yes, Roanoke is
Okay,
a thing.
Roanoke's a thing. Roanoke. Yeah.
So you have things planned.
Yeah.
You're
and-
going to find a way to get to Nashville.
and internet.
All right, cool. Congratulations to Jake Skirchak, our Liberty Garden midseason showdown champion. How can we find you on Twitter? People want to congratulate you for your win.
You can follow me on Twitter at Pokebays, and I don't know, shoot me a DM, please.
There you go.
Tell me how awesome I am.
You are very awesome. Obviously, you are a champion here today, Jake. So congratulations again. Thank you so much to all of our players. We had over 65 players here today, so we had those 7 rounds. It was a huge event. A lot of people jokingly online call it Brooklyn Regionals or Brooklyn Mini Regionals. Kind of was with how stacked the competition was here. So 76 in total. So thank you all for watching, also sticking with us through our flat tires and everything in between to getting here. We're really tired. We're going to go to bed. Hopefully we'll see you all in Dallas. If not, Liberty Garden is going to have more premier challenges and mid-season showdowns throughout the season leading up to Nashville, all for the title of world champion. This is last year's. I'm sure Nashville will have a cool Pikachu. Maybe you'll even win it.
Oh, I'm going to win it.
All right. That's the confidence I like to hear. Thank you so much, our staff, our crew, Kings Games, everybody involved here. It's been a blast. Have a great night. We will see you next time here on Liberty Garden. Make sure to subscribe.